Alzheimer's, like other dementias, is a progressive disease, which means that it gets worse over time. This worsening may be gradual or it may be sudden, and for many sufferers it might vary. But it is common to speak of Alzheimer's as being broken up into various stages. It's important to note that I am not a doctor, and I cannot diagnose any condition. My dad, Jim, suffered from Alzheimer's disease for about 10 years. The information that I'm about to relay is based on the experiences that I had with him, as well as research that I've done both at the time that I was caring for him, as well as subsequently. It is offered as is. I offer no warranties or guarantees concerning the accuracy of the information. That said, it appears as though there are a number of different systems for actually categorizing the various stages of Alzheimer's disease. I'm going to sketch two of the most common systems that I've run across. First, and most importantly, some people speak of Alzheimer's as occurring in three different stages. Under this threefold arrangement, Alzheimer's would basically be broken up into early stage, middle stage, and then advanced or late stage. Memory problems in early stage are going to be difficult to distinguish from just general forgetfulness. A person might have trouble thinking of a particular word or remembering a recent event or finding an item like lost keys. And indeed, my dad would forget his keys and lock himself out of the house during this stage. The help needed in early stage is basically going to be confined to helping the person maybe with a memory cue or memory prompt, or perhaps helping them locate lost items. It's going to be very minimal, and it will amount to just basic assistance. In early stage, the changes that the Alzheimer's sufferer undergoes are typically categorized as mild. In this stage, cognitive changes will be very subtle. They may go unnoticed, and in any case may not be recognized as Alzheimer's disease. And this did happen with my dad. Before he was diagnosed, he actually was already in middle stage. The entire early stage was, for the most part, missed or discounted as just general age-related forgetfulness. In middle stage, the difficulties become more pronounced. You start to see emotional and behavioral changes. The person's reasoning is going to be more directly affected. They may start to withdraw from social situations that they had previously enjoyed. My dad, for instance, had been friendly and outgoing for most of his life, and all of a sudden he started to become angry and aggressive, and he didn't want to go to family functions and other things that he had previously appreciated. A person can also start to experience delusions and hallucinations during this stage. My dad became paranoid. He would accuse me of stealing things. He would accuse my young children of leaving things in his personal space. And again, he would sort of act out aggressively, which had been very uncharacteristic compared to his personality in the past. Confusion and disorientation become more obvious and more problematic. Alzheimer's sufferers may begin to wander off or elope, and they start to need more constant supervision. I recall awakening one morning to the knocks of a police officer on the front door who was returning my dad. He had found him wandering on a fairly busy street in the middle of a snowstorm. As we enter into late stage, we start to get more pronounced or severe Alzheimer's symptoms. Let me interject that the boundaries between these stages are not clear-cut. They tend to be very gradual, and really by the time you notice definitively that somebody's in a stage, you may not be able to pinpoint when precisely they transition from one stage to another. By late stage, the reason is more or less completely destroyed. Language faculties are severely impoverished, if they are even around at all. Mobility and locomotion are also severely decreased. The person is for the most part bedridden or wheelchair bound, and this is the stage where the person is at greatest risk for things like blood clots and infections. Eventually the person will be completely unable to do almost anything. They lose the ability even to do basic bodily functions like coughing, clearing the throat, swallowing food and water. At this point, the Alzheimer's sufferer require more or less 24-hour care and supervision. Let me interject that the transition between middle and late stage Alzheimer's is also going to involve something called long-term care qualification. I speak about this at greater length in one of my other videos, which I invite you to click on. I also have further articles on alzheimersproof.com. But the basic idea is that a person who lacks 2 out of 6 of what are called the activities of daily living will qualify for long-term care. And those activities of daily living include bathing yourself, dressing yourself, feeding yourself, being able to toilet by yourself, being able to transfer in and out of bed, and to control your bodily functions. There's also a cognitive trigger, which somebody might trip much earlier than lacking those physical capabilities. But by late-stage Alzheimer's, it's almost for sure that a person will be qualified for long-term care, possibly in multiple ways. It's important to remember that classification in a stage is based on observation. There isn't a litmus test that can sort of definitively establish what stage a person's in. It's going to depend on what abilities they have and what abilities they lack. For more on these themes, I invite you to see the articles that I have on my website, alzheimersproof.com. The second way of classifying is sort of an expansion of the first. So the second way of classifying is actually a 7-fold system of classification instead of the 3. But it turns out that the 7-fold way basically sort of, again, expands on the 3-fold way in the following sense. The 7-fold system has 7 stages that are usually assigned 4 different categories. So the first category is no Alzheimer's whatsoever. Now, this might seem strange, but the idea is that everybody has sort of a cognitive baseline. And so for most people who are not afflicted with dementia, they're going to fall somewhere on this rating spectrum according to the 7-fold system. So no Alzheimer's at all would be stage 1. Stage 2 would be having some kind of very subtle memory changes or reasoning changes, and they're so subtle on this system that they wouldn't even go noticed by definition. Stage 3 gets into something that is sometimes called mild cognitive impairment, or MCI. So stage 3 is still no Alzheimer's technically, but the cognitive impairments begin to sort of stack up. They become a little more noticeable, and the idea is that this mild cognitive impairment will sort of be a prelude to full-blown dementia or Alzheimer's. Stage 4 is early stage Alzheimer's on the 3-stage system. In stage 4, the person would be recognized as having Alzheimer's probably through a test like a mini mental state examination or a mini cognitive examination. And I'll talk about the various tests for Alzheimer's in a following video. Stages 5 and 6 on the 7-fold system would map onto middle stage Alzheimer's on the 3-fold system. So here you're going to start to get the emotional changes, the behavioral changes, and you're going to start to lose physical abilities like locomotion and things along the lines of this. The person's memory will erode to the point where not only will they not be able to remember recent events, but they also won't be able to remember names and faces from their recent past. They'll forget loved ones and so on, or at least be unable to recognize them. Finally, stage 7 on the 7-fold system is basically end stage or terminal stage Alzheimer's. At this point, the person has lost the ability even to perform basic bodily functions like coughing, like swallowing, and because it is a terminal stage, the person's life expectancy likely at this point is only another 1 or 2 years at the most. For more information on the process in which a person actually dies from Alzheimer's disease, please look at another video that I made on that topic, as well as the topic of addressing whether or not Alzheimer's qualifies as a, quote, terminal illness. And again, I have written materials on my website. I thank you very much for joining me today. I hope that my articulation of the stages has been enlightening to you. Again, I invite you to check out my written work on alzheimersproof.com. I explore these issues at greater length. It turns out that there are additional ways of classifying Alzheimer's, and I also explore some of those as well. And please check back to this YouTube channel for additional content. Thank you very much.